people don't realize why they are in the market.
Who are the ones who are actually making money?
Rather hold on to a shitty company for eternity rather than book losses.
Our guest today is Mr. Nitesh Agrawal.
Things that are happening in Nepal market early, they've happened in, for example, the Indian market 20 years back, 25 years back.
Oh. Nitesh is the executive chairman of ABC Securities, which is broker number 17.
I don't regret getting into this industry, but I think it could have been much better.
Today's conversation, we've not invited him as a broker, but as an investor who's been present in the market for the past 20 years.
2007 when I got into the market, so I was 21 years old. 7, 8 there was this bull run in the market where the index went up to 800.
And he's seen multiple market cycles where some people have made money and few investors have lost money.
Our clientele who had invested in the market for the longer term, they actually minted money in the market. Risk, dictionary.
What advice would you give to that person if they want to make money in the market? Namaste and welcome to Investor Pod. I'm Arpan Khanal, founder and CEO of National Capital. In this podcast series, we sit down with the best minds in investing and we explore their story, their investment process, their success, failures, and how they allocate capital with discipline in order to create long-term wealth for themselves. Through this podcast series, we want to bring high-quality conversations around investment and business for our viewers so that our viewers can learn from them. So sit back and enjoy the conversation. So I want to start right from the beginning. Tapai stock market ma chai kasari involved hunu bhayo, when did your journey start?
So I mean, stock market ko journey to bachchadekhi नै start bhako भन्नु पर्यो because my father was also a stockbroker. So when I was a kid, I would listen to my father talk over the phone and about stock market, about the stocks, and he also made it a point that म सानै हुँदाखेरि he used to take me out. म स्टक एक्सचेन्ज पनि गएको छु, कम्पनीज पनि गएको छु, मर्चेन्ट ब्याङ्कर्स पनि गएको छु होइन. सो आई रिमेम्बर दिल्ली बजारमा स्टक एक्सचेन्ज हुँदाखेरि ही ह्याड टेकन मी देयर. सो काइन्ड अफ भनौँ त्यो बेलादेखि नै अलिअलि चाहिँ ग्रुमिङ चाहिँ भएकै थियो स्टक मार्केटप्रति चाहिँ.
हजुर, तपाईँहरू वर यु गाइज द फर्स्ट जेनेरेसनको स्टक ब्रोकर हो दे?
सो technically yes, technically no भन्नु पर्यो because my father did not have a brokerage license of his own. So he started off I think 6 months after the stock exchange was established. So त्यसपछि चाहिँ he was the authorized representative of other brokerage firms. And I think 13-14 years सम्म हामी बुवाले चाहिँ अरू ब्रोकरेजकै अथोराइज रिप्रेजेन्टेटिभ भएर कारोबार गरेर एन्ड देन 2063 BS 64 तिर चाहिँ हामीले 17 नम्बर एबिसी सिक्युरिटिजको चाहिँ ओनरसिप हामीले टेक ओभर गरेको थियौँ बुवाले.
ओके, द्याट्स भेरी इन्ट्रेस्टिङ होइन. अनि हाउ डिड योर फादर गेट इन्ट्रेस्टेड इन द स्टक मार्केट? इज देयर कुनै त्यस्तो केही स्टोरी छ दे?
स्टोरीमा अब माई फादर ही ह्याड अ रियली गुड नेटवर्क होइन. ही वाज इन्भल्भ विथ JCs एन्ड ही वाज अ भेरी सोसल पर्सन. सो वेन द स्टक एक्सचेन्ज opened and they got out the licenses, brokerage license, त्यो बेला my father missed that opportunity. And then somebody, he's actually one of his cousins, होइन, ठुलो बुवाले चाहिँ उहाँलाई recommend गर्नुभयो because you've got such a good network, you know finance, होइन, भनेपछि probably this is a good space for you. भनेर that is how we started off. So त्यो बेलामा because the licenses were already distributed, he opted for being the authorized representative.
So he started out as an
authorized
representative, and then later on he went on to acquire one of the licenses.
Yes.
Topic say, how did you get involved? And which year was it? And tell us about your journey now.
So, मैले ब्रोकरेजमा आउँदाखेरि चाहिँ so it was not planned actually, होइन. Even though म बच्चादेखि नै ग्रुमिङ चाहिँ भयो, I was being groomed, but then it was never planned. So I wanted to do something of my own, because everybody aspires कि म आफ्नै के गरौँ. So but then 2007 मा right when we took over ABC Securities, त्यो बेला चाहिँ broker number 17 was Khandelwal Stock Broking Company. So when we took over that company, right around the corner, NEPSE was in the process of getting online trading system, computerized trading system introduced.
Out and cry, but you are moving to a more computerized system.
So त्यही त्यही बेलामा what happened was, because my father of his age, he was like he was not computer literate, right? So he was like अब चाहिँ अलिकति probably you might have to enter भनेर भन्नुभयो. I was studying त्यो बेलामा, I was in 3rd year of my bachelor's and I was a finance student, so I was like why not? So I entered.
Great. Ani, okay, you touched upon the education, and so I want to go a little bit back. Tell me about your education, qualification, के पढ्नु भएको छ अनि how did that all add up to the stock market?
एजुकेसनमा like all the youth of Nepal, त्यो बेलामा I also wanted to go out, बाहिर गएर I wanted to study, so I took up A levels गरेको थिएँ. And A levelsमा that time we could opt for subjects, so it was 3 subjects, and it was neither, त्यो बेलामा चाहिँ it was either science or commerce भन्थ्यो नि त, or arts भन्थ्यो. But then I ended up taking a mixture of everything, so it was physics, economics and mathematics for my A levels. त्यो गरेँ, but then for various reasons, family reasons, I could not go out to study undergrad चाहिँ. So I was studying in Katmandu itself. I studied in KCM, BBA KCM बाट गरेको थिएँ, and while I was in KCM, I got engaged in the stock market also.
Right.
So I remember for around 3 months, the stock market would open at 12 noon, I think, or 1 o'clock, and it closed, and it was open for 1 or 2 hours. So our college used to end at 11:40. So I used to rush to the stock exchange to open out my trade गर्नको लागि, and my father would be ready with all the orders and all that. So I would just go in, trade, and then come out. So it was like that. And then post my undergrad, I did my MBA from Katmandu itself, ES Institute of Management, finance my major गरेर MBA गरेँ.
Yeah. So तपाईँले अघि भन्नुभयो नि, like you probably wanted to do something else, हैन? अब now we've obviously come a long way, हैन? But retrospectively तपाईँले सोच्दाखेरि चाहिँ नि, do you think you could have done something else with your life? एउटा कुरा थियो, हैन? And do you regret having entered the stock market or not?
I think obviously if it was not the stock market or the brokerage industry, I would have done something else. I was looking out as well. I wanted to, because basically a son would want to always do something and prove हुन्छ नि कि I could do it भनेर हुन्छ, हैन? So I really wanted to do something else, but then looking back, I don't regret getting into this industry, but I think it could have been much better. This industry could have become much better.
Right. When I started to invest in Nepal, a lot of the people, they told me that the value investing techniques that I use or what I learned in the CFA program would not work in Nepal. They told me things like, यो बाहिर पढेको यहाँ नेपालमा कामै लाग्दैन, नेपालको बजार हल्लाको बेसिसमा चल्छ, यहाँ खेलाडीहरूले मार्केट चलाउँछन्, a lot of this. I ignored what they said. I continued to do my research on companies. I identified good companies. I bought them at a very cheap price. And as a result, over the past 7 to 8 years, we've made very good returns for ourselves, our families, and our friends. Now, at National Capital, using the same technique that we use to manage our money, we also provide services to other people who don't have time or expertise, but are looking for professional money managers in order to manage their wealth. So, if you're someone who doesn't have time or expertise, and you're looking for professional money managers in order to invest your money in the stock market, please get in touch with us. Our numbers are provided below, or you can visit our website and you can find more information on our website. So that brings me to the exact question that I was going to bring up next. Yeah. So I've never interacted with a broker at that depth. So when you look at the brokerage industry, and I want you to tell me and tell the audience, like, actually, how is the brokerage industry organized, right? Because I think now there are closer to 100 players, and history ke cha brokerage industry ko. And as of today, who are the ones who are actually making money? Who are the ones who are not making money? And what are the ones that who are making money? What are they doing right versus the ones that are not doing right?
So history ke kuro गर्ने हो भने चाहिँ नि, so because I've heard stories from my father and बुवाकी generation को brokersहरुसँग, when stock exchange called for the first set of licenses, त्यो बेलामा चाहिँ it was, the preference was given to chartered accountants. Okay. So among the first generation of brokers, you would find a lot of brokerage firms owned and operated by chartered accountants. Okay. It started from there. So the thought process was very correct. त्यसरी जानु पर्यो भनेर, professionally जानु पर्यो भनेर. But then over the years, if you see, a lot of chartered accountants actually moved out of the business. So you will not find, first generation brokers ma, those chartered accountants still involved, you will not find them. त्यसको reasons पनि थियो. For example, initial days ma, the brokerage industry was a part-time industry. Because the volumes were very small. I remember stories, बुवाकी generation को ब्रोकर्सहरुको stories, कि कुनै ब्रोकरले स्टक एक्सचेन्जमा रिङमा 2 लाखको कारोबार गर्यो भने सबै साथीहरुले लगेर चिया खुवाउनु पर्थ्यो कि. So that was the so 2 लाखकै कारोबारमा पनि चिया खुवाउनु पर्थ्यो हैन. So it started off from there. So I think the CES kind of lost interest in the business हैन. But then moving forward, yes, the brokerage industry has evolved from, let's say, हाम्रो paper delivery हैन, certificatesहरू हुँदाखेरिदेखि लिएर automated trading system, the volumes have risen multifolds. So in that sense, we've done very well भन्नु पर्यो. But then I think scope-मा चाहिँ अहिले पनि we are very limited. Our services are very limited. It is basically limited to trading for punching orders for our customers भन्छु के म.
Right.
So we are still, I mean, 20 years back also we were doing the same thing, placing orders for our customers. Now we are doing the same thing. The only difference is we used to shout, now we type.
Right. So first generation, how many brokerage companies were there? Right?
Nepal, I think 32 licenses, they had given out 32 licenses.
Right.
Among that also, I think they had given out 25 licenses in the first lot. And then because there were many applicants, they asked the other applicants to come together and they gave out 7 more licenses.
Okay. Got it. So that was the first generation. Right?
Yes.
Second generation, I think that number increased to 50.
Yes. So 50 पनि कसरी increase भयो भन्दाखेरि 32 licenses, when stock exchange had given out 32 licenses, over the years 9 of those licenses were revoked.
Right.
For various reasons.
Yeah.
So we ended up with 23 and then we added 27 more.
Right.
And then we reached the number of 50. And only recently, as you said, we're closer to 100, exactly 92.
Exactly 92. So right, great. So oil industry, when you're looking at it from an insider, you know, I mean, there are few brokerages that make money and some that don't make money. You know? So what do you think is the mantra for someone who wants to be successful in this industry?
I think brokerage भनेकै, if you see, broker is a middleman, right? So the term itself, होइन. So त्यो हुँदाखेरि middleman भनेको त, if there's a middleman in anything, I think trust is the biggest attribute to that industry, होइन, brokerage-मा. So brokers who operate with honesty, integrity, होइन, उनीहरूको चाहिँ I see the business doing well. एउटा customer, because again we are in the service industry, customer focus हुनै पर्यो. So the brokerage firms which are giving better brokerage customer service experience to the customers are doing well. Thirdly, I think technology, IT is driving the industry globally also. So Nepalma pani, because we've seen the introduction of automated trading systems, computerized trading systems, IT is also playing a big role.
Right.
So these brokerage firms are doing, in terms of pure brokerage,
right.
I think they are doing well. And brokerage is not an overnight business that you open a shop and you will get business from next day. Right. I don't think that happens in the brokerage industry, because you need to kind of develop that relationship with your customers.
Yes.
And it only happens over a period of time. And then I think the biggest customer acquisition happens through referrals.
Right.
Brokerage ma चाहिँ.
Okay.
In Nepal, अहिलेसम्म पनि.
Yes.
So referrals को लागि पनि you need to have that, you know, अलिकति longer
track record,
period,
and with that trust and having done the right thing for the clients. Right. Great. So यो सबैमा चाहिँ how is ABC position? तपाईको brokerage company?
हाम्रो brokerage firm, अब म brokerage-मा लाग्दाखेरिदेखि नै बुवाले दिएको certain mantras-हरू थियो, हैन, which I think still drives our firm's belief system. Few of them was that, I mean, two things that he said to me when I got into the industry was 2 rules. So one was भाउमा कहिले पनि नखानु भन्नुहुन्थ्यो.
Right.
I'll come to that. And second one was आफ्नो ट्रेड नगर्नु भन्नुहुन्थ्यो.
Right.
So भाउमा नखानु भनेको चाहिँ के हो भन्दाखेरि, back in the days brokers could, you know, I'm not saying they would, they did, but then brokers could actually execute orders at the exchange at a different price and come back and give a different price to the customers.
Right. So they could front run their clients.
Yes. You know? Right. So that was possible. That used to happen because of the system itself. Yeah. Open outcry थियो, transparency थिएन. So बुवाले चाहिँ एउटा त्यो चाहिँ कहिले पनि नगर्नु, because that way you will never be able to gain the trust of your customers. अनि सेकेन्डली चाहिँ आफ्नो ट्रेड नगर्नु भन्नुहुन्थ्यो. सो त्यसले चाहिँ नि आफ्नो ट्रेड भन्नाले चाहिँ, if the broker, what my father believed, हाम्रो values नै कस्तो छ भन्दाखेरि, if we trade for ourselves, then conflict of interest आउँछ.
Right.
You know, it is bound to be there. You know? So if you are punching orders for your customers as well as for yourself, then there will be conflict of interest. And that might not always be in the best interest of the customers.
Right.
And if you're in the service industry, I think customers' interest is paramount. So a few of those, I mean, two rules saying you're a major in Tithio. Or coaching, what he always used to also say is that you have to be honest to yourself. काम गर्दै जाँदाखेरि, right? You have to be honest. Dedicatedly काम गर्नुपर्छ. You will have instances where you might have disagreements with your customers, and the relationship might break up, right, with the customer. But then, over the years, if you are correct and if your value system is correct, you will see a lot of customers coming back also.
Right.
So in my 18 years, I've seen a lot of that happening. Short term, there are disagreements. Certain services better pound सकिन्छ होला. But then if the value system is correct, a lot of them actually come back.
Every morning, I like to start my day with coffee. It helps me focus and get in the zone before I start to work. Recently, I came across this easy-to-drink pouches by Katmandu Coffee. I personally like the plain espresso, but they have multiple flavors like hazelnut, cappuccino, and chocolate. They're super easy to use. Just stir them, pour them over hot and cold water, and that's it. You're good to go. You can find them in major retail stores like Bharbatini or Big Mart, or in their own store at Lazimpat. If you love coffee, you must definitely try them out. Okay, so now about brokerage, but let's get into investing, which is the core of our program, right? So what I want to understand is, for someone who's a broker, how did you get interested in investing until the transition, त्यो भनौँ न अहिले पनि त्यो dichotomy in the mind, where you're balancing two different things. How do you manage it?
So as I said, our बुवाले चाहिँ trade नगर भन्नुहुन्थ्यो हैन. So I think initial 8-9 years I was not involved in trading or investing also. बुवाले अलिअलि long term गर्नुहुन्थ्यो पहिला, but I was not involved. We wouldn't be buying shares for ourselves त्यो बेलासम्म. I think 2016-17 onwards, so what we started doing was we started investing in the market with a certain objective. We had objective theory. With that objective, we started investing, and the journey started off from there. And then we gradually increased our investment. And I think 2021-22 the objective J थियो, it kind of happened, and we liquidated all of our positions. And majorly त्यो journey 16-17 देखि नै start भयो.
Right. So you basically started 16-17 there, right? That's why investing journey.
Yes,
yes. Did you have any experience in terms of putting your money in the market before, and how did that experience go?
So as I said, 2007 when I got into the market, so I was 21 years old. 7-8 there was this bull run in the market where the index went up to 800. Being a young lad in the market, money always attracts. So one fine day I went to my father. I was like, I'm even trade गर्नुपर्छ. Surprisingly, he did not tell me anything. He said, how much do you want? I was like, already, let's start. So he gave me 2 lakh rupees. That is how I started trading. But then I remember 15 days later, मैले उहाँलाई 60-65,000 rupees cash थियो कि check थियो, and remaining share certificates हुन्थ्यो नि त्यो बेला. So त्यो लगेर मैले उहाँलाई दिएँ, and I told him कि I will not be trading from now onwards. You can keep this and do whatever you want to. भनेर भन्दै थिएँ उहाँलाई. He asked me why. So my reason was, during those 15 days, I was a young person. To 2 lakh rupees पनि मेरो लागि ठुलो amount थियो, very big amount. So whenever my portfolio was not performing well, त्यो बेलामा it was hampering emotions that I also.
Of course, yes.
And emotions आउँदाखेरि it was hampering my service delivery for my customers. When I was punching orders, whenever I saw the market in the red, I was like stressed. Whenever the market was green, I was elated. So because of all those reasons, I realized,
probably like if you're holding a security and the customer starts to sell it, you're thinking, what does this person know better than me?
Exactly. So yes, I realized the conflict of interest. So I realized that very quickly, in a matter of weeks, couple of weeks. So that is where I gave the money and the share certificates back to my father. I was like, right.
And then you did nothing for a good 6-7 years.
Yes.
And then you finally got into investing, right?
Yes.
So your investing philosophy, say, develop one. Do you read books? Have you did you stumble upon video of investors?
So during the early days of my professional life career, 2010-11 I used to read.
Right.
Not as much, but then decently I used to read. So I stumbled upon value investment books also through Vilama. So I used to read that, but then the concept was not completely sinking in. Okay, through
Right.
Vilama. But then over the years, what I realized was I could see two sets of clientele in the market. So one was traders in the market, so who would make money in the short term. The bull market cycle, they would make a good chunk of money, but then the party would get over sometime
Right.
for them. So
And they would still be caught in the party.
yes. So in that sense, I realized over those 8-9 years that short-term trading probably is very difficult.
Yes.
Um, you have to have, the willpower and the discipline to be able to crack it. On the other hand, I also realized that our clientele who had invested in the market for the longer term,
Right.
they actually minted money in the market. That is where I saw the wealth was being created.
Right.
Multi-baggers. People who had invested in the early days, 90s, early 90s, or even late 90s, or whenever in the market, but then they held on to the investments in good companies for a decent period of time. They made good money.
Right.
So then I realized that, in the long run, this is what will create wealth, and is possible to crack it.
Yes.
Trading is very difficult.
So that's how you shifted your mindset
Yes.
from trading
Yes.
to investment. That's very interesting. And tell me, like, how, like, you've developed your investing philosophy. You've decided you don't want to be a trader, and then you've decided that, okay, I want to get into investing because now I've seen people who buy good companies and who hold it for the long term. They tend to make money, right? So you've done that. Can you share, the 16, 17 ko cycle bhannu? Can you share something, a few picks that you did, and what was the investment process? What was the thought process? How did you go about picking these companies, holding these companies?
So again, because when you're investing for the long term, you would want to have good companies as in companies which are fundamentally sound, which make business sense, which have good growth.
Right.
And revenue model. You would want to invest in those companies and also at a good valuation, right? So good companies at a very high valuation probably does not make
Absolutely,
sense. So in those times, I'm talking about 2015-16 when the markets were, again around its peak, right?
Right.
So everything else looked very overpriced. So during that time, me and a friend of mine, we were having discussion. We kind of talk about our investments, right, and opportunities in the market. So we happened to stumble upon Bottlers Nepal.
Right.
Coca-Cola, right?
Yes.
So we happened to stumble upon Bottlers Nepal, two companies listed, Balaju and Tarai. Apparently, Balaju, the float is extremely low, and there were no trades happening in Bottlers Nepal Balaju. But then we happened to get a few shares in Bottlers Nepal Tarai at a really good valuation. I think the earnings of the P around that time was around 7 or 8.
Right.
And because the company hadn't given out stock dividends and it had only given out cash dividends, right, and that too very small part of their annual profit, right. Because of those reasons, the market was kind of ignoring that stock, and it was not liquid as well. So we entered that stock.
Right.
As soon as we bought, we were very scared. Me and my friend, we were very scared because once you take that position, then you kind of, you start looking for confirmations from the market, whether we did the right thing or not, those things, right?
And probably everyone's going to say, oh, it's illiquid. And
Yes, illiquid, you will not be able to exit and all that. So that's where we entered, and we kind of entered with the thought that we will not be selling this stock at all. So I think we entered, and then after a few months itself, the stock BNT started rallying like anything. It was hitting the circuit breakers every day, and it reached up to 9,999.
Right.
We did not sell there as well. Prices came down to 3,500 levels.
Right.
From 10,000 to 35.
And you're holding all along.
All along, right? So we held on to the stock. So that is how the investment journey started.
Right.
It yielded good profits, and it made sense. It kind of reinforced the whole thinking that value investment is the way to go, because in that sense, it did not matter to us what the daily price of the stock was.
Fantastic.
And did not matter to us, how the market is doing, how the economy is doing. Overall, it obviously matters, right? But then in the short term, the noise kind of, you can afford to ignore the noise.
True, absolutely.
So that kind of helped.
So Bottlers is one example.
Yeah.
You know, do you have any other company that you could share with us?
So I've been a very cautious investor, I would say. So from 15, 16, so Bottlers Nepal was when we started investing for the objective which I was saying, right? So we started investing in a few other companies. Basically, it was microfinance and banking sector then, because the market was at its peak, but then those were the safer bets in the market.
Right.
Not purely value investing, but then safer bets. From then onwards, I think 2018, 19 onwards, we kind of got into promoter shares
Okay.
and promoter shares of microfinance companies. So, in those days, you would get auctions to write shares, unsubscribed write shares, and all those.
Yes.
So, early auctions, what we started getting in, we started sourcing promoter shares because we believed that the business made sense. It was a growing industry, and the returns for promoter shares, because they trade
You're
around
available
50%
half the
of
price,
yeah,
so
half the
you're
price.
doubling the yield.
Yeah, so you're doubling the yield, and because we were in it for the long term, the yield mattered to us more, right? The dividend yield. So we kind of invested in the promoter share sector heavily.
Do you have any regrets about, rather than regrets, do you think there are mistakes that you made in the market along the way?
Yeah, a lot.
So share some of these, because these mistakes are really interesting and त्यहीबाट धेरै सिक्न पाइन्छ क्या हामीहरूले.
अब मैले अघि एउटा मिस्टेक त भनिहालेँ, त्यो 2 लाख रुपियाँको ट्रेड गरेको. And then along the way, what happens is, we being stockbrokers, so we are bombarded by noise. Clients-हरूसँग पनि discussion भइरहन्छ. So day in, day out, it's noise that comes in, right? So even though त्यो एउटा mindset, discipline राख्दा पनि, there will be instances where you are weak. So ठ्याक्कै त्यो weak भएको बेलामा it hits you. So there have been a few instances where we've also speculated in the market.
Right.
And in all of those instances, we've lost money. Right. So because of that, I think 3 or 4 years back, when it was our last mistake, so me and my partner, so what we decided was कि अबदेखि चाहिँ स्पेकुलेट गर्ने कुरो आयो भने चाहिँ I will discuss with you. तिमी कहाँ आयो भने तिमी मसँग discuss गर्नु. And once we realize that it's speculation, the other one will have to, ensure that we don't invest or trade in that manner. So that is how we have been doing. I think we've kind of shied away from losing money in the market.
Right. So mostly the mistakes have been around speculating. And also, I think when I had a word with you, you told me about whenever there's a proposition that comes that's very attractive, that's when you lose the money, right?
Yes.
When it's too good to be true and you think you want to jump into this opportunity, and that's where you lost money, right?
Yeah.
And that's very interesting. How do you decide, or how do you feel, like in Nepal, it's not a very big universe, it's 200 odd companies, How do you decide which are the companies that you want to invest into, right? And what's your thought process of narrowing down on these companies?
So, as you said, it's not a very big universe, and in terms of industrial diversification, there's not much, right?
Sure.
So basically, I think first of all, the macroeconomic scenario, the industry level, probably can kind of pick out the industries which might do well. For example, banking, insurance, microfinance. You can pick out the industries, okay? Manufacturing, so the industries, you would get an idea from that also. And then slowly, then you trickle down into individual stocks, right? The things that are paramount for me when I'm investing is corporate governance practices of the institution. Paramount. There should not be red flags regarding corporate governance. I would rather not invest and miss the opportunity of earning profits than lose money. Okay?
True.
So lose money, that too to corporate governance malpractices.
Right.
So त्यो बाहेक चाहिँ अब इन्डस्ट्री ग्रोथ भयो एन्ड कम्पनीकै ग्रोथ भनौँ कम्पनीको बिजनेस मोडल र कम्पनीको त्यो ट्रेजेक्ट्री कस्तो छ सो द्याट इज इम्पोर्टेन्ट जस्तो लाग्छ एन्ड द माइन्डसेट अफ द प्रोमोटर्स अल्सो म्याटर कि वेदर द प्रोमोटर्स आर इन इट फर द लङ रन अर फर द सर्ट रन बिकज हाम्रोमा इफ यु सी रेगुलेटेड एन्ड अनरेगुलेटेड बिजनेसेसको कुरो गर्ने हो भने ओभर द इयर्स वाट हेज ह्यापन इज द रेगुलेटेड बिजनेसेस देयर रेभेन्युज हेभ बिन श्रिङ्किङ होइन रेगुलेटरी नर्म्सले पनि गर्दा हो होइन सो अब चाहिँ अनरेगुलेटेड सेक्टर अनरेगुलेटेड एज इन जसको डिरेक्ट रेगुलेटेड छैन सो त्यस्तो सेक्टरमा चाहिँ looks more promising returns. But then again, you have to be wary that there isn't a direct regulator, so there might be malpractices. So you have to kind of keep an eye out for those.
Yes.
Because otherwise, हाम्रो market ma what I feel is longer term ma चाहिँ decent companies will do well. Yeah, हाम्रो market ma. त्यो sir.
Yeah. So when I met you the other day, you were mentioning about these companies that this generation has not seen, right? You've probably seen some of them, but your father has seen it and he always communicated it to you, right? Tell me about those companies, because those were, again, like, they didn't have a direct regulator, those are free-floating companies. I want you to tell us more about these type of companies.
So when I got into the market,
Right.
त्यो बेलामा our market was predominantly dominated by the banking and the insurance industry.
Right.
Market cap 80-85% सम्म पनि यही दुईटा सेक्टरमा थियो, अरूमा थिएन कि. Being a finance student, we studied नि हैन कसरी valuations गर्ने, financial analysis and all those things. But then your set itself is very limited to those industries.
Yes.
Then you can't do much, right? So त्यही हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ नि we used to talk, म बुवासँग कुरा गर्दै किन त हाम्रो मार्केटमा why aren't there other industries, other companies, real sectors जुन चाहिँ हामी भन्छौँ, किन छैन भन्दाखेरि then he used to tell me stories of the heydays. So when the stock exchange was established, त्यो बेलामा there were a lot privatization को whim थियो नि 2046 सालको आन्दोलन पछि. So privatization को whim मा private sector was very active and they were very, I mean, into the market also, हैन. IPOs आएको आइ थियो. So you had companies such as गोरखकाली रबर उद्योग, Nikon Air, AS Laboratories भन्ने थियो, हैन. हरिसिद्धि हैन, इटा एन्ड टाइल, ब्रिक एन्ड टाइल फ्याक्ट्री, jute mills थियो, हैन. So there were a lot of companies, right? But
Nikon Air is very prominent.
Nikon Air, हैन. तर त्यो बेलामा चाहिँ अघि मैले जुन भने नि कि corporate governance was the issue. Corporate governance was the issue. And त्यो बेलामा my father used to tell me अलिकति हाम्रो political climate पनि we had just moved out from a system, हैन, पञ्चायतबाट डेमोक्रेसीमा आथ्यौँ. So we were kind of still testing the waters नि, हैन.
Right.
So we were testing waters, and while you're testing, you will drown also, in a lot of instances. So I think partly त्यो पनि reason थियो, but then mostly it was malpractices and government policies कै त्यो stability नभएको हुनाले a lot of these companies went belly up. Lot of customers lost money,
Yes.
They still have share certificates of those companies. A lot of companies, people have that, हैन. Memory हामीसँग पनि छ अलिअलि पुरानो share certificates. But then त्यो एउटा phase थियो. And because of that phase, if you see, the initial days मा जुन IPOs हरू आथे, पछि गएर it dried out for around 20, I think late 90s देखि लिएर mid 2010s भनौँ 2015 सम्म पनि धेरै कम्पनीजहरू आथे नै.
I think Shivam was probably one of the first after
so we kind of missed out on those 10-15 years of that market growth or marketमा नयाँ इन्डस्ट्रीको इन्ट्रोडक्सन. So त्यो भएको थियो. त्यो बेलाको इन्स्टेन्सेसहरू धेरै इन्ट्रेस्टिङ थियो. मान्छेहरू इन्सेन भ्यालुएसन्समा फस्थेँ. फर इक्जाम्पल गोरखकालीको अब रुमर्स त त्यो बेला पनि हुन्थ्यो नि. सो फादर युज्ड टु टेल मी गोरखकालीमा चाहिँ एउटा के हल्ला आएको थियो भन्दाखेरि गोरखकालीले गुडियर हो कि मिशेलिनसँग स्ट्राटेजिक टाइअप गर्दैछ अरे भनेर हल्ला आएको थियो मार्केटमा. सो त्यसले गर्दा गोरखकालीको स्टक सर्ट अप, होइन. त्यो बेलामा एउटा बङ्गलादेश ब्याङ्कको गार्मेन्ट फ्याक्ट्रीमा त्यो गार्मेन्ट इन्डस्ट्री वाज डुइङ रियली वेल. सो बङ्गलादेश ब्याङ्कको पनि इन्सेन भ्यालुएसन भएको थियो. सो दोज थिङ्स वर ह्यापनिङ एन्ड आई थिङ्क त्यो भन्छ नि the coffee is the same, but then त्यो अहिले पनि it's those things are happening, but then the situation has changed, but the crux is the same.
True. And I think there's not something which is very unique to Nepal जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई. I think your scamsहरू इन्डियामा throughout 80s and 90s भएको छ, हैन. There's a very famous investor in India, Ramdev Agrawal, छ कि, and then of Motilal Oswal Securities, हैन. उसले के भन्छ भने if you look at the Indian stock market, 90% of them is Bangar cap, okay, के भन्छ, like large cap, mid cap, and 90% of them is Bangar cap, and only the 10% are good companies. Because essentially corporate governance भनेको के हो भने, I don't think so it's about regulatorले मलाई के गर्न भनेको छ and I need to do it. अघि तपाईले भने it's a matter of self discipline, it's self governance चाहिँ कति strong छ, हैन. And essentially if you look at the history of the stock market, it's about the people who develop very strong self governance that have been able to create generations of wealth for the investors and for themselves. Okay?
True.
So I don't think these chapters are failures. We've probably these are very bad role models, but hopefully this next generation of IPOs that are coming, I really hope that the promoters of these companies, they're able to actually focus on the business, generate wealth for the investors, and then go along with, rather than trying to say that short term paisa kamai dinchu and then I'll pull one off on the public market investors.
Yes.
And I think that's how it should be. Great. So again, what I want to understand is, when you're making investments, right? Typically, तपाईँको portfolio, how many companies do you hold? Like, do you like to diversify? Do you like to concentrate? What's your appetite?
If you look at the number of companies, I think max it would go up to 10, 12, I think. किन भन्दाखेरि हाम्रो मार्केटमा if you diversification is a very rosy term for our market. Okay? Right. We all want to diversify, but then what we don't realize is we end up putting all of our eggs in the same basket, whether it be because of our decisions or the structure that we are in. Right. So त्यसले गर्दा डाइभर्सिफिकेसनको हाम्रो मार्केटमा धेरै ठाउँ पनि छैन. एन्ड आई थिङ्क धेरै डाइभर्सिफिकेसन गरेर पनि पोइन्ट छैन कि सर्टन लेभलको कन्सन्ट्रेसन हुनु पनि पर्छ, कन्भिक्सन हुनुपर्छ सर्टन स्टक्समा चाहिँ. सो आई थिङ्क 10-12 कम्पनीजको पोर्टफोलियो हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ ठिकै होला. मेरो केसमा चाहिँ आई डु द्याट होइन. अनि त्यसमा पनि कन्सन्ट्रेसनको पार्टमा पनि त्यो कन्सन्ट्रेसन अल्सो ह्यापन्स इन फेजेस कि. सो प्रोबब्ली if we find a company that is good, we value that company, त्यसको conviction or त्यसको concentration चाहिँ probably 3-4 years 5 years को हुन सक्छ. And until we find something else, so that we kind of switch around.
Right. So अर्को कुरा is like again related to entry and exit from the market. Or I know timing the market is very difficult. Do you follow any macroeconomic indicators or can you follow गर्नुहुन्छ?
Broadly yes, broadly गर्छ.
Which are the ones that you follow?
So यस्तो छ, अब जस्तो कि हामीले चाहिँ नि बिकज अब हाम्रो इन्डस्ट्रीमा रिसर्च ब्रोकरेज इन्डस्ट्रीमा चाहिँ त्यस्तो वी आर नट इन सो मच इन्टु द साइन्टिफिक रिसर्च. त्यसले गर्दा चाहिँ हामी चाहिँ नि इन्डिकेटर्समा जस्तो कि अब पब्लिस हुने इन्डिकेटर्सहरू होइन, न्युज पेपरमा अर मिडियामा आउने इन्डिकेटर्सहरू नि हेर्छौँ. वी डोन्ट डिग इन्टु द रिपोर्ट्स पर से होइन. सो त्यो हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ वाट वी लुक एट इज द इन्ट्रेस्ट रेट्स इन द मार्केट होइन, द अभाइलेबिलिटी अफ लिक्विडिटी इन द मार्केट, हाम्रो फरेन एक्सचेन्जको हाम्रो ट्रेडको पनि इम्ब्यालेन्सेसहरू अहिले हेर्छौँ. इन्फ्लेसन इज समथिङ द्याट वी काइन्ड अफ वी फिल द्याट इन्फ्लेसनले चाहिँ हाम्रो मार्केटमा इम्प्याक्ट गर्छ. मनी मार्केट साइकल्स म्याटर अ लट. सो हाम्रो मार्केटमा फेरि म्याक्रो इकोनोमिक फ्याक्टर्स चाहिँ डिरेक्टली लिङ्क छ. बिकज इफ यु सी त्यो मेजोरिटी मार्केट क्याप होल्ड गरेको कम्पनीजले चाहिँ उनीहरूलाई डिरेक्ट इम्प्याक्ट पर्छ क्या हाम्रो म्याक्रो इकोनोमिक फ्याक्टर्स. फर इक्जाम्पल ब्याङ्किङ नै छ नि त आज पनि, आजसम्म पनि होइन. सो हिस्टोरिकली म्याक्रो इकोनोमिक फ्याक्टर्सले रेमिटेन्स घट्यो भने ब्याङ्किङमा इफेक्ट, लिक्विडिटीमा इफेक्ट आउँछ, मनी मार्केटले ब्याङ्किङमा इफेक्ट आउँछ. सो अल दोज थिङ्सले गर्दा चाहिँ ब्याङ्क्समा इफेक्ट आउने भएको हुनाले चाहिँ म्याक्रो इकोनोमिक फ्याक्टर्सले चाहिँ डिरेक्टली मार्केटलाई इफेक्ट चाहिँ गर्छ.
तपाईँ I think you just brought a very important point. There's this book here called Masterclass with Super Investors. This is a very good book. It's about interviews with these investors in India. Okay? So when I was reading on one of these investors, India, even in a country like India, up to the 90s, the brokerage industry was not very organized. Okay? And I think it was post-liberalization, post-1991. A lot of these MNCs started coming to India, these international agencies, and then they started to establish a research division inside the brokerage. And then they were making these, writing these research reports, selling them to clients. And I think that's the time when, brokerage industry actually shifted from just, giving stock tips to more research-based recommendation. Okay? So I hope that in the coming days, someone like you can...
I hope so too. And I think our market, it is high time that we get scientific. I mean, aware bhayera, people need to invest. I mean, अलिकति research गरेर aware भएरै गर्नु पर्यो. And I think because we are at the front desk of the industry, so I mean, customer facing participant त हामी हो नि त.
The touch point of the industry.
So the touch point of the industry, I think, as the industry itself, brokerage companies, I think it is our responsibility also. To kind of invest in research and probably push out those researches to our customers and to the masses also.
Right. So Tapan, you sit in the center of the market, right? And what's a mistake that you find people making very often? Like, what's something that you see and you ignore it, but obviously you can't always stop people from making mistakes, right? And
मिस्टेक्स अब धेरै मिस्टेक्सहरू छ बिकज अलिकति बिहेभियरल फाइनेन्सको स्टुडेन्ट भएको हुनाले पनि वेन वी टक अबाउट द बायसेस होइन अब अस्ति भ्याल्यु इन्भेस्टमेन्ट सोसाइटीकै वर्कसप हुँदाखेरि पनि वी स्पेन्ड 2 days टकिङ अबाउट द बायसेस एन्ड द थिङ्स द्याट गो थ्रु माई माइन्ड ड्युरिङ दोज वर्कसप्स अर दोज लर्निङ्स इज द्याट आई अलवेज काइन्ड अफ try to relate it with my experiences, with my customers. So all the biases that we have studied about, talked about, जो सबै मार्केटमा प्रेभलेन्ट छ. हाम्रो मार्केटमा चाहिँ मेजरली एउटा चाहिँ के छ भन्दाखेरि हर्ड मेन्टालिटी चाहिँ इट्स एभ्रिवेयर, बट देन हाम्रो मार्केटमा चाहिँ अलिकति बढी छ, त्यस बढी नै छ जस्तो लाग्छ कि बिकज market is very accessible.
Yes.
We have, I mean, what, 10 years, I think 10, 11 years since we've introduced dematerializations, and we've crossed India's numbers in terms of demat accounts percentage to the population.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we are
far ahead.
We are far ahead. We've crossed 20%. त्यो चाहिँ किन भयो होइन, त्यो किन भयो भन्दाखेरि हाम्रो जुन चाहिँ एउटा स्ट्राटेजिक पुश नै थियो नि कि द्याट वी वान्टेड टु टेक द स्टक मार्केट टु द ग्रास रुट लेभल, त्यसले गर्दा भयो होइन. सो त्यो हुँदै गर्दाखेरि त्यसको एउटा अनइन्टेन्डेड कन्सिक्वेन्स पनि छ नि त. सो त्यसको अनइन्टेन्डेड कन्सिक्वेन्स के हो भन्दाखेरि द ग्रास रुट पिपल हु हेभ काइन्ड अफ इन्भेस्टेड इन द मार्केट, दे हेभ बिन एबल टु मेक गुड मनी इन द मार्केट होइन थ्रु प्राइमरी इस्युज. But then they also expect that the similar returns, they will be able to achieve similar returns in the secondary market also. And not everybody would want to put in that effort to, kind of research and put in, hard work. So easier way out, social media is so accessible and everybody has a phone. So social media जुन scriptsहरू push हुन्छ, so people invest there. So herd mentality चाहिँ त्यहाँ आउँछ. अर्को मैले देखेँ, सी एभ्रिथिङ इज बिकज अफ त्यो ल्याक अफ रिसर्च नै भन्छु होइन. त्यो हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ अर्को एउटा इस्यु मैले देखेको हाम्रो मार्केटमा विथ इन्भेस्टर्स इज त्यो लस अभर्जनको जुन चाहिँ छ नि. सो दे काइन्ड अफ हाइली भ्याल्यु द लस मेकिङ ट्रेड्स, दे काइन्ड अफ रिमेम्बर द्याट फर अभियस रिजन्स, बट देन दे डोन्ट वान्ट टु स्टप द लसेस. Nobody wants to stop losses in the market. They would rather hold on to a shitty company for eternity, rather than book losses.
Because they think that the price will move back to my costing and then I'll sell it.
Because हाम्रो मार्केटमा if you see over the longer period, even the bad companies have been able to reach previous highs at least. In a lot of scenarios. So कुनै न कुनै बेला त यसको दिन आउँछ नि भनेर भन्छन् कि. सो त्यो पनि छ होइन. अनि अर्को चाहिँ मैले देखेँ मिस्टेक्स हुने चाहिँ people don't realize why they are in the market.
Right.
Whenever I go to colleges, students also interact गर्दाखेरि one thing I tell them is when you go out shopping, so if you want to buy a shirt, let's say, so you would go out and then unconsciously there are so many decisions that you are making.
Yes.
For example, it's July अहिले होइन. So July when you go out, it's summers, you would want a lighter shade shirt, probably a half sleeve shirt, right? Material so sub cotton level. So unconsciously there is decisions, unconscious decision making there is honey. But then all of that goes into the trash can when you are investing in the stock market. That is the problem. Okay?
Right.
People do not know why they are entering the market. So मैले अघि भने नि एउटा अब्जेक्टिभको कुरो गरेको थिएँ while I was investing. So त्यो अब्जेक्टिभले मलाई कहाँ हेल्प गर्यो भन्दाखेरि I knew exactly when I want to offset that position.
Right.
Did not matter the price. The price did not matter to me. I ended up selling at a very good price. But then that objective was there, which made it very clear for me when I want to exit. I've seen instances where people have made 300, 400% returns in a matter of year or 18 months, but they were not able to sell because when you do not have an objective, every time the market goes up, everybody says that अझ माथि जान्छ, and त्यो greed takes over. Okay? So people cannot sell. So stock market ma greed the major factor छ नि त. So त्यसले गर्दा चाहिँ I think the objective has to be really well defined. Why are you investing? Whether you are investing for the short term does not matter. Yes, accept that I'm in for the short term. There might be cushions that you can, guardrails that you can put.
Yes.
If you know that if you're investing for the short term, you would have guardrails of stop losses probably.
True.
If you're investing for the long term, if you're investing for your retirement or your child's education, so objective the clear hunu paryo ni, and that will help you identify companies which match your objective,
Right.
and will give you clarity on when to sell or
when not to sell,
when
or
not to sell,
those type of things. But it gives you great.
so त्यो चाहिँ नि lacking छ हाम्रो मार्केटमा.
Right.
हाम्रो मार्केटमा चाहिँ majority of investors do not practice that.
True. And plus, अब आजको जमानामा with again trading available, like just at your fingertips.
At the fingertips, and
again social media, like you said.
Social media, हाम्रो मार्केटमा sadly market participants, clients do not understand the effect of leverage also. सो म त सधैँ भन्छु कि हामी नेपाली हामी धेरै वीर छौँ होइन, ब्रेभ छौँ भन्छौँ, तर सँगसँगै म के भन्छु यति ब्रेभ छौँ कि हामीले रिस्क भनेको त हाम्रो डिक्सनेरीमै छैन भन्छु क्या. किन भन्दाखेरि हामीले सधैँ अपसाइड हेर्छौँ रिस्क लिँदाखेरि. People do not think about the downside. People do not think, what if I lose this money? What effect will it have on my overall net worth, my lifestyle, my future plans? We do not look at that. And we feel that
there are instances where people they use leverage, loan leko huncha for share transactions are right, and they lose so much of money they literally come on the road.
Yes.
I mean, well, Nepal mata I haven't seen it as such. Nepal there's actually so many examples, to be very honest. कोही कोहीलाई share market को यो भन्छ र त्यो भन्छ र bull भन्छ र king भन्छ हैन. अनि cycle end हुँदाखेरि they're so leveraged, they literally come down to the road. And India mani there are lots of these examples where people are very high flyers. And if you're not very cautious with money, if you're not very careful with money, risk ramrari manage गरेको छैन भने चाहिँ it doesn't take matter of few days ma people they actually destroy all of that. Okay? Great. So I'll move on to the next one. So how's your day structured?
Wake up in the morning, early morning, drop my younger daughter to her bus stop, come back and do some yoga. So I try to skip that as far as possible. But then my wife ensures that I do some yoga. So and then I try to reach office by 9:30, 9:15, 9:30. Initial half an hour, 1 hour looking at certain fund requirements, obligations. हाम्रो market settlement is very important. So alikati operations are here, and then start conversing with clients and my team. What is their outlook on the market? We kind of discuss, and then during the market hours, I am at the terminal.
Right.
I kind of like being at the terminal because it kind of gives me that inside look into the market, something which post-market trades would not show me. So orders, movement in the market. So that gives me that info. And then post 3 o'clock, post-market, settlement activities and conversing with clients, in-office meetings and external meetings also with customers. I kind of try to wrap up my day by 6:37, be back home as far as possible and spend time with family.
Right. So another interesting question, right? So I mean, there are a lot of younger people watching the podcast. What are the good habits do you think that a person should imbibe in order to be successful in the market?
One is discipline. Whatever you are doing in the stock market, whether you are a trader or an investor, those attributes, those strategies might require different sets of discipline, but then you have to identify them and you have to kind of follow them. That is essential. Secondly, I feel that you have to be humble. Humility is very important in the stock market, because you will have phases where all your bets might be correct.
Right.
But then if you kind of end up saying that, after those bets, कि अपन भगवान है, when feeling आयो भने चाहिँ, I think that is the end of it, just लाग्छ. Because I think the market is a massive equalizer. It will not spare anybody. It will not know that you've invested, right? So time and again, when people lose that humility, it kind of ends their run in the market. So त्यो देख्छु. अर्को चाहिँ what I see is you have to be kind of open to ideas, and you have to be watchful जस्तो लाग्छ कि हाम्रो मार्केटमा त छैन because रियल सेक्टरको कम्पनीजहरू कम छ. But then what I say is, for example, I will not name the cement company, but I remember 2.5 years back, I had some guests over in Nepal, so we had done a road trip. So throughout the highway, we realized was that there was one company whose marketing and which is a top of mind brand all around Nepal. Okay?
Right.
Whether even if their factory or their business scope and geographical scope is limited to a certain region, but then their
They were
presence,
marketing it all across Nepal.
their brand was present everywhere. So you kind of have to look out for these kind of cues also. Just like when we read, we see that authors say you kind of go to a grocery market store, right, department store, you see products that are moving fast from the shelf, right? It kind of gives you that idea whether that product is doing well or not.
Right.
So I think you have to keep an eye out for these kind of subtle information in the environment.
Right.
त्यो पनि छ जस्तो लाग्छ.
Okay. So I think to add to what you were just saying, I think you said that Nepal real sector ko companies are and there isn't adequate to do research. Again, there's a great book and I recommend Masterclass with Super Investors. You book padakeri, there was an investor, okay? He says that his son was also in the market, and he said that my son was getting married, and he says that my son has spent more time, researching companies, meeting management, going to AGMs, than spending time with his wife, okay, in the early days, right? And this investor, India mata MNCs is post 1991 in most of the cases, but these people, they used to read annual report of pharma companies in the US, pharma companies in Germany, cement companies globally, or telecom companies, or IT sector. These companies were not listed in the Indian market at that point of time, okay? But they were doing a lot of research into these companies because what they wanted to figure out is someday if these companies are listed in India, how should we be looking at it? And believe me, they made a lot of money because they already had these mental models fit into their minds, okay?
Yeah.
So I think generally when I meet people, I think in our case as well, when we started investing, we already had such an elaborate research on the cement stocks, or more recently there was Reliance Spinning Mill Co. IPO in Latvia, which has been
Stalled.
Stalled for right now. But even before that, we were actually doing research on the textile industry globally, cycles kasari farak parcha, who are the largest buyers, sellers. Is it a fragmented industry? Is it a consolidated industry? Who makes money? Who loses money? Does scale matter? So, I think you need to be prepared beforehand. It's not like these companies will come and they'll give an opportunity to understand a lot of things. So I recommend a lot of people to read upon these companies globally, and that knowledge generally doesn't go to waste. I think over the next few years, I think that brings me again to the next question. Over the next few years, I think there are going to be a lot of these real sector companies that are going to be listed, and having that knowledge is going to give you that edge.
Definitely.
Okay, how do you see the Nepal capital market playing out over the next 10, 15, 20 years?
The capital market, will be growing, because globally, if you see in the long run, the capital markets keep on growing in terms of the volume, in terms of the market participant size, in terms of institutional investors coming into the market, in terms of the listed companies, because a lot of companies would, as you correctly said, right, a lot of companies are in the pipeline also. So in terms of that, I see the market growing massively in the coming years, and especially the capital market industry globally also is a very big industry. Right. I feel that in Nepal it is still underplaying, right? It is not up to the mark yet, but then it will take over, right? So that's going to definitely happen. So the industry will be growing, but I think we kind of need to take cues from our neighbors, international markets, and see that while we grow, we can probably learn from the mistakes or the lack of oversight, which led to wealth being destroyed in foreign markets. Probably we could take cues from that and prepare beforehand so that we can kind of lessen the impact of this, the negative impact of growth for our market participants in the years to come. त्यो चाहिँ आई थिङ्क अलिकति कन्सियसली नै लाग्नै पर्ने चाहिँ देख्छु कि मैले बिकज एज यु सेड things that are happening in Nepal market early, they've happened in, for example, the Indian market 20 years back, 25
Right.
years back. Right?
Oh.
Now, it is one thing to say that they've happened, but then I think the better thing to do would, okay, it has happened. So what have they done? What did they do to correct those errors or market ko
Or how
anomalies?
were the investors also very cautious in terms
Yes,
of,
you know. So
avoiding those kind
yes.
of things?
So I think we have that opportunity. We are blessed with that opportunity to kind of take cues, and I think it depends on us how we take it forward. Whether we want to learn from it or we want to repeat the same mistakes that they did.
Right. Okay. Great. So I think that brings me to another question, again related to the development of the capital market. You find yourself in the brokerage industry, What do you think is missing in the brokerage industry? Globally, there are platforms like Robinhood in India. There's Zerodha, there's 5paisa, and a lot of these companies that are discount brokers, If you ask me, there hasn't been too much progress on the brokerage side in Nepalco brokerage industry. What do you think needs to happen, and how do you see this as a responsibility, as a market participant? What do you see as a responsibility, and how is it likely to change over the next 10, 15 years?
See, for any industry to invest in certain activities, the cost, the investments, and the revenues, whether it be in the long run or the short run, have to justify. For example, we said that now the brokerage industry should start getting into research and all that, right? But then research is fine. But then if brokers are not allowed to publish their research reports legally, right? Probably that comes with the advisory service if we get that scope, right? So, जबसम्म त्यो आउँदैन तबसम्म brokers would not be investing.
Right.
Actively invest गर्दैन. Some brokerage firm would want to do it out of their interest and their commitment to the market, but then others would not. So I think regulatory framework मा पनि हामीले अलिकति चाहिँ नि यो कुराहरूलाई encourage गर्नलाई, research को पार्टले encourage गर्नलाई चाहिँ we need to expand the scope of the brokerage industry so that brokers can actively invest in research and probably give out good advisory services to the customers. एउटा त्यो देख्छु. अर्को चाहिँ नि हाम्रोमा टेक्नोलोजी होइन, नट हाम्रोमा, ग्लोबली you would hear a lot of people say that technology brokerage firms or the capital markets is now a fintech industry rather than a financial industry, right? Finance industry. So fintech भन्ने बित्तिकै because technology लाई internationally they've been able to leverage technology in a fantastic way, right? Whether it be algo trades, whether it be discount brokerage, so all of those things will come when we are kind of liberal towards letting the brokers do their thing, right? So we are from the private sector, so we would want to invest in things which would yield good returns for our firm, right? Ultimately. So in that case, from the regulator's perspective, yes, guardrails need to be put in place because we do not end up cheating would not be the right word, but I can't think of anything else. But then, probably the market participants like fair hunu paryo. Right. But then I think हामीले त्यो open up चाहिँ गर्नुपर्छ. So I think technology will be the biggest driver in the moving days. Research will also be one of them.
Yes.
And in order for the brokerage industry to expand and grow, we will need to be able to attract good human resource. Okay?
Right.
And that good human resource, the knowledgeable people would only come into the market when their output is valued.
Right.
You can't just have a IT professional in a company जहाँ the person is basically
Innovation is high.
Innovation is होइन, उसले केही पनि गर्न सक्दैन, everything is locked in, you can't do anything, you can't, the IT person will not stay. Therefore, if that person is really good, he would not stay there because he can't experiment, innovate, right? त्यो गर्न सक्दैन. So that's there. One more thing I see is that हाम्रो इन्डस्ट्रीमा, हाम्रो इकोनोमीमा, हाम्रो देशमा भनौँ मार्केट पार्टिसिपेन्ट्सको चाहिँ जस्तो कि अघि पनि when we talk about innovation in the brokerage industry, we kind of always fall towards the zero brokerage model. I remember 2007 when I was getting into the market, my father made me go to Bombay बम्बेमा वी ह्याड सर्टेन कनेक्सन्स अनि उहाँले ब्रोकरेजहरूका तिमी गएर 1 विकको ट्रेनिङ लिएर आऊ भनेर उहाँले पठाउनु भएको थियो. सो वेन आई वेन्ट देयर त्यहाँ चाहिँ ओभर lunch, I think. I was talking to the broker, and then he happened to ask me about the commission rates. Then so त्यो बेला 1.5 सम्मको थियो. So when I told him that, तुरन्त भन्यो अरे आपका तो कमीशन बहुत अच्छा है, आपका कमीशन हमको दीजिए भने क्या मैले तुरन्तै भने आप हमारा कमीशन ले लीजिए, आपका वॉल्यूम हमको दे दीजिए. Right, so you need to understand that for any industry, revenue is very important. Yes, it looks very nice that you to please the masses, you might shrink down the revenues, margins, and all that. But then, if you really want to have innovation in the industry, there is a cost to it.
Right.
And probably Nepalese capital market is not in a space where if you kind of restrict that revenue, then the brokers or any other market participant would be investing in the correct things. Right. So probably अहिलेको लागि चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ नि नेपालको मोडल अब ब्रोकरेजकै कुरो गर्दाखेरि we say that expensive छ. But then SAARC region को हामीले हेर्यौँ भने India is an exception. India is a very big market. Apart from that, if you see our brokerage is as competitive, if not better, than Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, much better. So invest गर्नलाई ठाउँ चाहिँ दिनु पर्यो कि.
Right.
So probably yes, the zero brokerage and all those things will come much later, but then for that we need to have the right infrastructure in place and the right mindset in place.
Right. Okay. And finally, again moving to investing, if there is a young Nitesh Agrawal who's coming to the market, 18-year-old, excited about making money, right? What advice would you give to that person? And by that person, I mean there's a young, probably 18-year-old, 17-year-old looking at the podcast, What advice would you give to that person if they want to make money in the market?
A lot, I would say. First, what I would say is one thing that 18-year-old lad needs to understand is there is no shortcut in life.
Right.
There is no shortcut. So you have to put in your effort, hard work. And because you are an 18-year-old, probably your priority should be building your skills to be competitive in the real world. So focus on your studies, read books on investing.
Yes.
Read books on investing and see whether that kind of attracts you, whether that is something that you would want to do.
Right.
In the meantime, our market offers a fantastic opportunity to make money also.
Yes.
So त्यो बेलामा IPOs मा invest गर्दै build your capital.
Right.
Because we've seen the valuations that IPOs when they list in the market, so it kind of gives a very good opportunity to build that capital. And once you have that capital or whatever you are investing in, young people always would want short-term returns. And if I was 18-year-old, if somebody told me that value investing probably I would not be interested. So I would not say ki gora, because that would be wishful thinking. But what I would say is put part of your money into value stocks, bistari, kind of accumulate and build that portfolio, and the remaining do whatever you want to. If you want to trade like crazy, but then be disciplined. त्यो amount भन्दा बढी चाहिँ हुनु भएन. So even if you make a loss, then you will realize that probably trading is not correct for me.
Yeah.
And if you kind of develop that skill towards trading, then why not? You can do trading also.
Yeah.
But then you kind of need to fish around and see what you are good at and what would be apt for you. Another thing is that everybody, right, every 18-year-old should realize that the capital market, whatever profession you are in, whether you're a doctor, lawyer, does not matter. You don't have to be a finance student. You have to realize the basics of finance.
Right.
Because whenever you make money through any profession, you would want to invest that and get good returns.
Sure.
So त्यसको लागि चाहिँ you kind of need to have that knowledge to build up चाहिँ गर्नु पर्यो. Whatever field you are in, अलिकति basic finance को knowledge build गर्दै जानुपर्छ चाहिँ भनेर भन्छु. And the short-term profits आउँदाखेरि don't shy away from doing what you want to, because that's the age that you would want to do that. Right. And also remember that you are 7 years late into buying your first stock.
Right. Okay, Dave, thanks so much for doing this podcast and coming out and sharing your, almost 2 decades of knowledge, right, with our viewers. And we're so thankful to have you in the podcast.
Thank you, Arpan, so much for giving me this opportunity. It has been I've followed your podcast for number of years now, and I really like what you're doing. I think this is the way to go. Where have the discourse, the talks regarding how the markets and how investing should happen. So thank you so much, and it's a fantastic job that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.